And now to another overseas shocker and one of the most awful stories of 2014. At the beginning of June, you may have seen revelations about a mass grave being discovered in County Galway on the west of Ireland.
Bodies of 800 children, long dead, found in septic tank at former Irish home for unwed mothers.
Yes, a mass grave containing 800 children had been found on the site of an old mother and baby home run by nuns in the historic town of Tuam. And if you thought it was all too bad to be true, scores of other media around the world, including our ABC, confirmed this terrible tale.
In County Galway in the west, the remains of 800 babies and young children have been discovered dumped inside a disused septic tank.
And the journalist who wrote Philomena about a woman's search for her son, taken by Irish nuns, could hardly contain his horror.
In nearly 2 decades as a foreign correspondent, I covered stories of mass graves in far-flung locations in Eastern Europe and Russia, but never did I expect to be covering a mass grave from modern times on my own doorstep.
In Ireland, the impact was even greater, with several papers likening it to the Holocaust, and the Irish Independent comparing those nuns in Tuam to the butchers of Belsen, Rwanda and Srebrenica. But how reliable was this story? And why were there no pictures of the bodies? Had good taste for once prevailed? Well, no. You see, no babies had been found, nor indeed had the septic tank. Oh yes, and did we forget to tell you that those 796 children died of natural causes, with measles, influenza, pneumonia, TB and whooping cough topping the list? So how did this story get so out of hand? Well, if you're looking for a culprit, the Daily Mail Group's your man, starting with the Irish Mail on Sunday, which began the hue and cry.
A mass grave of 800 babies.
The Mail's article on 25th of May said the remains of those 800 children were most likely interred in a concrete tank beside the home. So, what was their evidence? A local historian, Catherine Corliss, had collected death certificates for all who died at the mother and baby home between 1925 and 1961 when it closed. And after finding almost none of the children in cemetery records, she had concluded the nuns must have disposed of them.
There was just one child who was buried in a family plot in the graveyard in Tuam. That's how I am certain there are 796 children in the mass grave.
This mass grave, Corliss believed, was in a walled garden. And somewhere beneath the grass, she suspected, lay what the Mail first described as a water tank, which had been
stumbled upon in the 1970s by Barry Sweeney and Francis Hopkins, then aged 12. Mr. Sweeney recalled,
It was a concrete slab. We used to be in there playing, but there was always something hollow underneath it. So we decided to bust it open, and it was full to the brim of skeletons.
Now that would surely have been a shocking discovery. But the two boys had seen perhaps 20 skeletons nearly 40 years ago. And the water tank, if that's what it was, had not been sighted since. What's more, Catherine Corliss had been calling it a crypt. Yet none of this stopped the Mail's British cousins at the UK Mail Online from beating it up into an international sensation.
Mass septic tank grave containing the skeletons of 800 babies at site of Irish home for unmarried mothers.
Note that in this story published in Australia, it was now a septic tank full to the brim with 800 baby skeletons. And after this was picked up by news agencies, AP and AFP, it was just a small step for US websites like BuzzFeed, the Boston Globe and New York Daily News to report that 800 bodies had actually been found.
800 skeletons of babies found inside septic tank at former Irish home for unwed mothers, report.
That, of course, was bullshit. As were claims in the Irish press that the dead babies had not been given Christian burials by order of the Catholic Church. And this soon became clear as Spike's Brendan O'Neill examined the evidence, or lack of it, and revealed what a beat-up it was, inquiring as he did so,
How did speculation that some children out of 796 might have been buried in a former septic tank become news headlines about 800 dead children having been found in a septic tank, leading to comparisons being made between Ireland's old nuns and the architects of the Nazi Holocaust?
How indeed. But, as Spike so eloquently observed, it was proof of the maxim that a lie will go round the world while truth is pulling its boots on. So, what is the truth? Well, the head of investigations at Ireland's public broadcaster, RTE, Philip Boucher-Hayes, may have got close to it. He found a witness in Tuam who told him of falling into a burial plot in the grounds of the home in the mid-1970s and seeing around 100 dead babies neatly stacked on what looked like shelves.
You could see they were swaddled up, rolled up in cloth and placed one after another in each raise, and there was quite a lot of them there.
Mary Moriarty described that chamber as a crypt. There was no raw sewage and the babies had not been dumped. Nor was Boucher-Hayes surprised.
Whatever cruelties you could lay at the nuns' feet, however harsh or however medically incompetent the regimes that they ran in the mother and babies' homes might have been, particularly in Tuam, it was always hard to believe that they would have knowingly put babies into a septic tank.
So why did the media fall for it? As Dublin City University's Professor of Journalism Stephen Knowlton put it in Crikey,
for several years now, Ireland has been rocked by scandal after scandal involving the abuse of children. The mass grave in a septic tank fits the narrative.
In other words, it matched our prejudices. And it made such great headlines, it was really too good to check. And who cared if it suggested those nuns were mass murderers? And you can read more about these stories on our website, where you can also get a transcript and download the programme. And you can catch up with us on iView and contact me or Media Watch on Twitter. But until next week, that's all from us. Goodbye.